Alright, in today's tutorial, I'm going to be showing you how to make these brutalist, type grids like this right here. These perfect parallel grids that, you kind of see in the brutalism style. So we're going to be using geometry nodes for this, so your computer might run a little bit slow, but I found it's how you can get the most, creative input or just variableness over your pattern or grid. You can do some cool, crazy things with it instead of having to mess with the array modifier all the time. So I'm gonna hit Shift A, and then I'm just gonna have a plane that's in like this. I'm gonna be using Blender 5.1. I forgot to mention this, but I'm just gonna hit New on Geometry Nodes, and then I'm gonna get rid of this group input here. Just delete it, and then I'm going to add a grid, and then I'm gonna add a instance on points. Plug the grid into the points, instances into the group output, and then I'm going to add a cube that we are going to instance. And see, like this, I'm just going to raise the grid scale to 3 so it kind of evenly distributes here. And then to kind of get those, pillars and, those lines or skinny lines, I'm going to decrease the X value to like 0.2. And then I'm going to decrease the Y or the Z value so it's not as, tall. Maybe it's like 0.5 like this. And the next thing we're going to do is we're going to duplicate this, just Shift D, and then we're going to Shift A, add a join geometry. And then I'm going to plug this instance in the join geometry and this other one too, and then this into the group output. And then I'm just going to flip these values. So I'm going to take, the 0.2, put it into the Y, make the X a 1, and then keep the Z at 0.5. And then you see we have our, little pattern here. We have these little intersecting, meshes or whatever it is, vertices, but we're going to fix this up in the end. I'll show you, but I'm not going to apply them right now because it'll slow down the geometry nodes workflow basically. So you can see if I, increase the X on this bottom one here, you see it stretches out like this. And if I increase the, Y on this one, you see it stretches out like this. But how can we make this uniform to where we can just set one value up and it scales the whole thing? I'm going to show you how to do that right now. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to Shift A, take a value node, and then we're going to plug this value node into the Y on this one, and then we're going to plug it into the X on this one. And you'll see this is scaling up, but we're going to fix it right now, add the value into some more things. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to Shift A, add a combine XYZ. So this will control the value of the cubes basically to make them more, wide and long. So I'm going to put this one into X, and then I'm going to put this into the first cube right here. And then I'm going to set the value to 0.2 on the Y and 0.5 on the Z. Duplicate this and plug this one into the Y. Put this one into the cube here, and then we're just going to flip-flop these values, put a 0.2 right here. If I scale up, you kind of see it gets this uniform look, but it's just getting wide. How do we add, maybe more columns or vertices into this? All we're going to do is set a 2 real quick. We're going to plug this into the vertices on the Y on the top one, and then we're going to plug this into the X vertices on this one. Then as you can see, if I increase the value now, when it gets wider, it starts adding more cubes or patterns basically. And then if you want to, change the width or the height of it, you can mess with these values here. As you see, it gets more thick. Like maybe if I want one of these pillars to be more skinny, maybe have it go through the middle, I can do that like this. Maybe if I want it to be on top, I can add a transform geometry node here. And then if I put the, I think it's the, yeah, if I just put the Z up, let's say if I want it to sit on top of like this, I can have this like this. It's pretty neat. I'm just gonna keep it uniform to now. I'll show you another little quick trick with the transform geometry. Let's say, I don't know, I have it like, like this small, but I want it to be, way bigger. I can plug this transform geometry at the end of the join geometry, and then I can scale up like this. But I'm gonna reset these values back to 0.5 real quick, so it's uniform. So how are we going to get rid of these, edges or these little vertices right here? We're going to be adding a mesh boolean and a realize points. This will slow down your computer geometry nodes a bit. I'm just letting you know. So I'm going to put the mesh boolean between the join geometry and group output, and then I'm going to put a union, plug it back in, and then I'm going to set it to exact. This way it kind of gets, rid of those clamping vertices and, when they're intersecting. Then after that, I'm just going to add a realize instances point right here. You can see why I told you to, add this after. Like if I start, increasing it, my viewport's gonna get slower, etc. So what I'm gonna do is I'm actually gonna duplicate it just in case I want to go back by hitting Shift D. This will slow down your computer too. And after that, I'm just gonna go to this plane over here, and then I'm going to hit the apply. And then to add our texture, to this, grid pattern or brutalist grid pattern, I'm gonna hit edit, go into edit mode, hit A. You can see we have all these rough vertices around. All we're gonna do to get rid of this is hit X, limited dissolve, kind of cleans up the UVs a bit. To add a texture on this, I'm just going to go to the shader editor real quick, hit new, I go to render port real quick, up my world color to 1, go back, and then I'm gonna hit Control Shift T using the Node Wrangler add-on. I'm gonna go to textures, and then I'm just gonna search for a basic. Let's just do this first one here, and then I'm gonna add the roughness, the displacement. You don't really need the displacement, the normal GL, and the color. You can see we got our material on, but it's not displaying properly. How are we gonna get it to display properly? I'm just gonna hit edit U, and then just cube projection like this. And you can see we already have our material. Then if I want to, set it up in a scene real quick, I'm gonna show you real quick. But this is the basics of just how you get it done. I'm gonna rotate it 90 degrees, and then you can get some cool lighting effects with this, with this pattern especially. Shift A mesh, and then I don't know, let's just add a basic cube in here. Then I'm gonna add a spotlight. Alright, so what I did is just add a quick camera real quick, just add this basic cube in the middle right here, and then just put a basic noise concrete texture. I got a video for that if you want to check how to do this. I'm just gonna leave this right here, and then I'm gonna take the spotlight. I'm actually gonna put the world volume down to like 0. Add some volume real quick to kind of show you some cool stuff you can do with this. I have a video on volume if you want to look at that too. And then I'm just gonna up this light value up just pretty high like this, and you can see I kind of get these these cool little rays that are coming through the the pattern and stuff like that. And let's say you want to change it, maybe make it a bit thicker. You can hit scale, say I want to make it a bit thicker on the y-axis here, and hit S, Y, and then I can scale it out a bit more like this, or I can make it the ceiling like this, so when you look up, you can have some cool light coming through. You can have it like a wall. I forgot to add this in, but if you maybe want to make a barrier around this little object, this pattern right here, what I'm gonna do is you just add a cube. Let me kind of hide this real quick, and then hit edit mode, and then we're gonna bridge 2 of the faces here. So we're gonna hit this one, go on the bottom, right click, bridge faces, and then go back to the vertices mode real quick. I'm gonna hit Alt E, extrude faces along normals. You can bring this in a bit like this. Hit like right there is good. And then I'm gonna bring this pattern I had back up here. I'm gonna bring this up and then kind of put it in the middle a bit. I'm gonna I'm gonna hit S, Shift Z, scale it along like this, and then I'm just gonna match it to the pattern of the grid basically. Then it's kind of thick, so I'm just gonna hit S and then Z, scale it down like this a bit. And then boom, we kind of have this cool little pattern right here with a little border around it. This is essentially how you make this cool little brutalist pattern. There's a lot of variableness you can do with it. I'm going to be leaving it in the link description. I'm going to have a Gumroad link to it. It's going to be free. You can test it out, experiment with some things if you'd like. Other than that, this helped you, learn some new things. Consider subscribing, leave a like. But other than that, have a good one.